Hello, student friends. Welcome to my class. Let's have a discussion on the Quit India movement. I am here with you, your guide in history, Arani Saikia. Yes, friends, Quit India movement is very much an important episode in Indian freedom struggle. Before going to start our discussion on the Quit India movement, we will have a brief introduction on the topic. By the end of this discussion, we will be able to know World War II and Indian involvement, Cripps Mission, Quit India Resolution, course of action. Here we will go through the events across the country during the course of the Quit India movement. Then we will go to the response from different pressure group on the movement, suppression of the movement, underground activities, nature of the movement, and we will also go to the contribution of the Quit India movement towards Indian independence. So let's begin. The campaign launched in August 1942 at the All India Congress Committee session in Bombay was the Quit India movement. Mahatma Gandhi and other Congress leaders urged the Indians to undertake a massive non-violent demonstration against the British rule in India. Quit India, Bharat Choro was a simple but powerful slogan given to that movement. Mahatma Gandhi called the nation to do or die in his speech. The protest was initiated to demand an end to the British rule in India. Since the movement was held in August, it is also known as August Movement. It was a significant factor in the British withdrawal from India at the end of the Second World War. So, what was India's involvement in the Second World War? The legendary struggle of 1942 may be seen as a byproduct of the Second World War situation. Japan, which was a part of the Axis power, was opposed to the British, and the Japanese force proceeded towards the eastern frontiers of India. The alarming threats from the eastern regions accelerated the launch of the movement. Gandhi believed that if the British left India, Japan would not invade India. The news of Allied defeats, the British withdrawal from the territories in Southeast Asia, and the trains bringing wounded soldiers from the Assam-Burma border confirmed the feeling of British failure. The Indian population had then doubts about the British ability to defend India against aggression of the Axis powers. Apart from the news about British setbacks in the World War, there was popular discontent due to wartime shortages and high prices of essential commodities. Dissatisfaction gathered against the British government. A section of Indians wanted to support the British during Second World War. They hoped for eventual independence through this effort. Others were enraged by the British disregard for Indian intelligence and civil rights, and were unsympathetic to the struggle of Great Britain. They saw it as due punishment for her subjugation of the Indians. Gandhi advocated non-violent resistance against fascist powers. He expressed his support to the British war effort, stating he did not seek to raise a free India from the ashes of Britain. However, opinions differed among the Congress leaders. Subhash Chandra Bose, the most gallant fighter for India's freedom, took a different course of action. Dear students, you are probably aware of his famous appeal to the Indians I quote, "Give me blood and I shall give you freedom." Yes, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose urged the people of India with this fiery slogan. The Azad Hind Fauj, or the Indian National Army, was already organized by Rash Behari Bose with the Japanese support. Subhas Bose sought the help from the Axis powers. He set up the Azad Hind government at Singapore in 1943. The Indian National Army marched up to the frontiers of India, but ultimately it failed to the British for want of provisions. This radical initiative, however, energized a new generation of Indians. Cripps Mission was related with the launch of Quit India movement. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, the British government sent Sir Stafford Cripps to India to resolve the Indian deadlock and to rally all forces of Indian life against the Japanese menace. At Delhi in March 1942, Cripps opened negotiations with the representatives of various Indian parties and proposed a draft. It provided that India was to have dominion status and a constitution-making body after the end of the war. In the meantime, the British was to retain control of the defense of India as per the World War effort with the cooperation of the Indians. Students, please be careful with the British sense that they wanted to involve the Indians for their own interest without any prior consent from the Indians. But regarding the spirit of Indian freedom, they ignored the Indian sentiment. So, in the meantime, the British wanted to retain control of the defense of India as per the World War effort with the cooperation of the Indians. The talks initiated by Sir Stafford Cripps failed to address the key demands of a time frame for self-government and of a clear definition of the power to be given to India. Gandhi therefore characterized the pledge of Cripps as, this is a very famous quote by Gandhi, he spoke that Cripps Mission was a post-dated check on a bank that was obviously failing. Sir Stafford left India. Failure of the Cripps Mission made it clear that Britain was unwilling to offer an honourable settlement and that she was to decide India's fate without any reference to the wishes of the Indians. It led to the Indian National Congress calling for a mass civil disobedience movement. Next, we see the follow-ups of failure of Cripps Mission. In the photograph, we see a section of senior congressmen. Dear students, we are aware of the fact that sometimes photographs speak more than the words can express. And while preparing for your class, I have taken help of some of the photographs reflecting some of the historical moments of Indian freedom struggle. Therefore, in this photograph, we can recognize some of the senior congressmen. They had assembled for they were the members of Congress Working Committee. The Congress had been ideologically, politically, and organizationally preparing for the struggle for a long time. The Congress Working Committee resolution at Wardha in July 1942 demanded complete independence from Britain. The draft proposed that otherwise, that means without complete independence given to India, the Indian National Congress would launch massive civil disobedience. Though Gandhi did not want to turn Britain's difficulty, why was Britain in problem? Because there was already World War II going on. And Gandhi did not want to turn Britain's difficulty into India's opportunity. Still the circumstances forced him to call for a mass movement. Then there came the historic Quit India Resolution. The Wardha Resolution was ratified as Quit India Resolution on August 8, 1942. The historic August meeting at Gwalior Tank in Bombay generated unprecedented popular enthusiasm. It stated the provisions of the movement as an immediate end to British rule over India, declaration of the commitment of Free India to defend itself against all kinds of imperialism and fascism, formation of a provisional government of India after British withdrawal, sanctioning a civil disobedience movement against British rule. And while observing the provisions of the Quit India movement, we can see that it was in line with the Congress ideology. It was supposed to be a peaceful, non-violent movement aiming at the British to grant India independence. Next, we see the Gandhi's clarion call to his people. In the photograph, you can see how Gandhi addressed a public rally with huge participation of the women folk. Gandhi issued a clarion call to the Indians to join the Quit India movement. His speech had the most electrifying impact on the Indians. He made the following statement in his speech. Gandhi spoke to the crowd who were already willing to start a full-fledged struggle against the British. Gandhi urged that, I quote, "I am not going to be satisfied with anything short of complete freedom. Here is a mantra, a short one, that I give you. The mantra is do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt." Dear friends, yes, it was the formula given by Gandhi to make the masses involved. He wanted to urge the people that they were now independent to proceed with their goal of making India free. And the mantra, the words were very simple, do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt. Gandhi's specific instructions to different sections of the public were: to the government servants, Gandhi urged, do not resign your job, but proclaim loyalty to the Indian National Congress. Gandhi asked the soldiers to be with the army, but to refrain from firing on the fellow soldiers. Gandhi asked the peasants to pay their agreed upon rent if the landlords are anti-government. If the landlords or jamidars are pro-government, do not pay the rent. To the students, Gandhi urged to leave studies if they were confident enough. And my student friends, in the study of our previous freedom struggle, you are already aware of the fact that students played a very formidable role in non-cooperation movement. To the princes, Gandhi urged to support the people. Gandhi urged the princes to support the people and accept the sovereignty of the people. People of the princely states were urged upon to support the ruler only if he is anti-government. Here it means if a ruler of princely state is anti-British, then only the people residing in the princely states should be loyal to the prince. They should declare themselves as part of the Indian nation. Naturally, the call of Gandhi drove into action large number of Indians along with the revolutionaries who naturally did not believe in Gandhi's non-violent philosophy. We know that Gandhi was always strict regarding his path, regarding his way, regarding his method, and his philosophy was belief in non-violence. But in the Quit India movement, some of the radicals revolutionaries were also considered Gandhi as their leader. But yes, they had their own way of action. There started violent protests asking the British to leave India at the earliest. Historian Gyanendra Pandey observes that Gandhi was the undisputed leader of a movement over which he had little command. He led a movement, but people had their own way of action. So, what were the events during the 1942 Quit India movement? The outcome of the movement was that Congress was declared an unlawful association and its leaders were jailed. Despite several police warnings against public processions and assemblies, a large crowd gathered at Bombay, where Aruna Asaf Ali hosted the flag and presided over the All India Congress Committee session. The common people of the country demonstrated an unparalleled heroism and militancy. There were strikes and demonstrations all over the country. The damage to the government property was immense. The villagers joined the townsmen in attacking symbols of government authority. In the first week after the arrests of the leaders, 250 railway stations were damaged, 500 post offices and 150 police stations were attacked. Here you can imagine the magnanimity of the Quit India movement. People devised a variety of ways of expressing their anger. They also disrupted all means of communications to disconnect the district authorities. For several days, the British Indian administration failed to have effective control over the people. National flags were forcibly hoisted on public buildings. Some policemen got influenced by the Indian spirit and they refused to fire upon the Indians. In the photograph, you can see the flood. You can see the spontaneous movement of the Indian masses. Here we can recognize the women, the students, the elderly who were coming out to join the rallies. And the course of action was all over the country through the length and breadth of the Indian subcontinent. The Prajamandal in states like Hyderabad, Mysore, Baroda, Gwalior, Indore, Travancore and Udaipur supported the Quit India movement. They informed the rulers to realize the fact that the time was fast changing. They wanted to inform the rulers that the time was fast changing. That means it was about to end the imperialist colonial rule. And they must value the political demands of the people of their states. People were in total rebellion in some places. The rulers in some states were reluctant to punish the satyagrahis. People moved from town to village, spreading the message of Congress by issuing handbills, posters, and news bulletins. There were significant participation of peasants in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Bengal and Maharashtra. Peasantry was a core part of the Quit India movement. At some places, jamindars or landlords also joined the movement. Laborers in Ahmedabad, Bombay, Sholapur, Tatanagar and Dalmia Nagar got involved in the struggle and their mills remained closed for days together. What was the response of different pressure groups to the Quit India movement? First, we can know the Muslim League's reaction. The Muslim League was not in favor of the British leaving India without partitioning the country first. Muslim League leader Muhammad Ali Jinnah's opposition to the call of Quit India led to Muslims cooperating with the British and the Muslim League obtaining power in the imperial provincial governments. The Communist Party supported the Second World War in favor of the British since they were allied with the Soviet Union. Because the Communist Party was obliged to the Soviet Union and because Soviet Union was part of the British alliance as allied power, so the Communist Party supported in favor of the British. But despite the communist group's lack of support to the Quit India movement, hundreds of communists at the local and village levels participated in the movement. Moreover, workers provided support by not working in their factories. Next, we will go through the suppression of the movement. Yes, because it was wartime situation and the British did not take any risk. They acted very brutally. There was atrocities meted out to the Indians. In this photograph, we can see how the British Army resorted to lathi charge on the protesters. The British government put down the disturbances with exceptional ferocity. Using the justification of the war effort, the British suppressed even basic civil liberties. The British Army had to deploy 57 battalions to suppress the rebellion. There were numerous arrests, convictions, and dismissals from services. The wearers of Gandhi caps were hunted out of various places. Dear students, Gandhi caps were symbolic to the spirit of Indian congressmen. The Gandhi caps provided them a kind of solidarity, and therefore those who wore the Gandhi caps were hunted out of various places. A total of about 10,000 people died in police firing across the country. There were suppression of other kind. The nationalist press was brought under strict government regulations. The prominent newspapers like the Amrita Bazar Patrika, Hindustan Standard, Hindustan Times, Basumati, Jugantar, Matrubhumi, Telegraph, Lokamanya, Jagrati, Daily Krishik, Bharat, Andhra Times, Dinamani, Hindustan stopped publications as a result of government's restrictions on them. Dear students, in the history of press, in the history of Indian press, we have come across that from time to time there were restrictions to curtail the freedom of press. Why? Because otherwise the press would reflect the grievances of the Indian intelligentsia. Therefore, the British were always concerned with the contents of the press, and they often put restrictions on the freedom of press. And in the time of Quit India movement also, we see that there's so many leading newspapers, numbering around 69 leading newspapers in total, were stopped from their regular publications. The entire Congress leadership was cut off from the rest of the world for over 3 years. Gandhi's wife Kasturbai Gandhi and his personal secretary Mahadev Desai died in a short space of months. Gandhi's own health was failing. Even then, at the age of 73, Gandhi undertook a fast for 21 days as a protest against government atrocities. The British released Gandhi on account of his failing health in 1944, but he kept up the resistance, demanding the complete release of the Congress leadership. The heavy-handed suppression by the government did not tire out the Indian enthusiasm. The Indian people continued with their struggle against the British. So, though the British tried to suppress the popular revolt, yet people did not give up. Next, there emerged underground activities. So, underground activities were very much a part of the Quit India movement. Many national leaders went underground. Following the atrocities, many national leaders went underground and continued their struggle in various parts of the country through underground networks. They broadcasted messages over radio stations and established parallel governments. An all India underground leadership with prominent members such as Achyut Patwardhan, Aruna Asaf Ali, Ram Manohar Lohia, Sucheta Kripalani, Biju Patnaik, R.P. Goenka and Jaiprakash Narayan had begun to emerge. The underground movement provided a line of command and kept up popular morale. These leaders collected and distributed money as well as material like bombs, arms, and dynamite to activists all over the country. Local underground groups were active in Bombay, Pune, Satara, Baroda, and in other parts of Gujarat, Karnataka, Kerala, Andhra, UP, Bihar, and Delhi. They were supported by Congress socialists, Gandhian Ashramites, forward bloc members, revolutionary terrorists, and congressmen. Let's look at the nature of the Quit India movement. Historian Sumit Sarkar has identified 3 phases of the Quit India movement. It initially started as an urban revolt marked by strikes, boycott, and picketing. Then focus shifted to the countryside with major peasant rebellion marked by destruction of communication systems and defiance of colonial authority. And finally, according to Sumit Sarkar, in the third phase of the Quit India movement, they are formed national governments in isolated pockets, which was characterized by terrorist activities. So there were 3 phases in the Quit India movement, according to historian Sumit Sarkar. It is different from the preceding 2 of the Indian freedom movements. The Quit India movement cut across the barriers of caste, creed, community, religion, and gender. The Quit India movement can be termed both as a rebellion and as a revolution. It might have failed as a rebellion, but it was successful as a revolution. The movement was able to draw the attention of world public opinion on the question of Indian freedom. Dear students, this was not a mere achievement that by the time of Quit India movement, the world public opinion was convinced on the question of Indian freedom. It was the Quit India movement which was able to draw the attention of world public opinion in favor of India's freedom. So what was the contribution of the Quit India movement towards Indian independence? The Quit India movement had a very positive contributing role in Indian freedom, in achieving the freedom for India. The success of the movement is debated. Some historians claimed it as a failure because by March 1943, the Quit India movement died out. Even the Congress at the time saw it as failure. The movement could not bring the Raj to its knees. The Quit India movement could not bring the British Raj under its control and could not negotiate for immediate transfer of power to India. But we should keep in mind that success of such movements cannot be measured by short-term gains, but by long-term impact. And the Quit India movement had its long-term impact. What had the impact? The Quit India movement aroused the strength of the people and their determination to be free from the British yoke. The Quit India movement is notable for regional success. In Balia, Tamluk and Satara, the local people were successful in establishing parallel governments. The Azad Hind government under Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in Berlin thought these parallel governments as an early indication of success of their strategy of provoking public revolt. The parallel governments, dear students, the parallel governments were thought to be a success because they provoked public revolt. The Quit India movement had the other contribution is that it enhanced public morale and anti-British sentiment. Although most demonstrations had been suppressed by 1944, but upon his release in 1944, Mahatma Gandhi continued his resistance and went on a 21-day fast. By the end of the World War in 1945, Britain's place in the world had changed dramatically, and the demand for India's independence could no longer be ignored. That means by the end of the World War in 1945, Britain had lost its earlier power and prestige, and India's freedom was now thought to be attainable. Here lay the success of the Quit India movement. Dear friends, thank you for your patient participation in my class. It is my pleasure to have discussed a very significant episode of Indian freedom struggle with you. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I wish you that you will go through it again and again and will have a thorough reading of good books written by the eminent historians. Thank you, students.